will talk where we'll talk about sharing and also sharing about the books that we are read throughout this last month or just anything that we have read and we share to everyone here. So I'll be writing what kind of topic that we will talk. I write it in the chat. Okay, so first, tell us about the book and how you think about it, and also how tell us also about the author, and two, what you like and you don't about the book, and three is how you would rate the book in 5 scale. So for the first presenter, anybody would propose themselves to be the first, or I will choose. Okay, I think nobody in a hurry now. So, okay, I can choose. Okay, how about Donald? Can you go first?
Okay, thank you, Edu.
Okay, it's time for you.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. So today I would like to share a book titled A Splendid Exchange by William Bernstein. And this book is about the history of trading. So lately I'm interested in learning about history. I think it is an important topic to learn. And previously I read history about other topics like in books like Sapiens, Mutius, and the likes. And this time I read history of trading. And I got interested in this because I read the first few pages. I already bought the book some time ago and I read the first few pages and it's very interesting. It's like opening a new world to me because so many things that we take for granted today are actually quite recent. And in history, there were many challenges, so many things that didn't happen like what we have today. And the second part of the first question, how you think about it? So I think the book is very enlightening for me, eye-opening, insightful, because it gives me the context about the progress that we have today, about how things came from. There is also quite a lot about Indonesia there, because spices were one of the most important commodities back in the 15th, 16th century. So the Portuguese, the Dutch, they came to the Spice Island, Indonesia. It's quite a lot of Indonesia, but it's about the world and also about Europe, about Asia, about America, and so on. So it's insightful to me in many different aspects because this is something that I never learned before. What you like and what you don't about the book. What I like about the book is the way the author tells the story. So it's captivating. So, for example, the story of opium wars in the 18th or 19th centuries is very interesting about about the background and how it unfolded, the fight between these empires, the China Empire and then the British Empire at the time. So I think the author is a very good storyteller and can tell the story very well. And what I don't like about the book, okay, so this is always hard question for me because I usually just think about what I like about the book. I easily skip the part that I don't like, so I cannot answer this. Yeah. Maybe if I think deeper, I can find something because always in books there are things that need to be improved. but I cannot answer it now. Number 3, how you would rate the book in 5 scale? I will give it 5 out of 5 because it's very eye-opening to me. And I think that is the most important criterion for me and for a book. How much of education or insights that it can give. So maybe I will just share a few takeaways from the book. First, there are so many things that we have today that we take for granted, but it took a lot of time to evolve. So for example, we can now send goods from one part of the world to the other part of the world very cheaply with shipping containers. But actually in the past, it was very hard. So just one example in the book, silk from China in like the first century, the price increased by about 100-fold after it reached Rome, 100-fold, and it's very dangerous. So there were many robbers along the way. The sea route was much safer. That's why people prefer to go by sea because there were less danger compared to going by land. And if you go past different kingdoms, then you can get troubles. Even if you bribe the officials, you can get trouble. So it's and this at the sea it is safer. But still, so many people lose their lives at sea. So it's very difficult. Another thing that I learned is how difficult it was. Just some examples, some random examples from the book. How difficult it was to went through the southernmost part of Africa, Cape of Good Hope. So it was believed for thousands of years because a Greek philosopher said that there was no way you can go through Africa from the southern side. And people believed that for like 2000 years or so. But then one prince, one Portuguese prince, his name is Hendrik, and the nickname is Hendrik the Navigator, thought differently. Well, I don't think so. I think we can go through the southern part of Africa. So he sent explorers there. So it's the value of thinking out of the box and thinking differently, not just taking the conventional wisdom. In this case, in terms of sea navigation. So because of this prince, he sent explorers to go to the southern part of Africa and open the way to Asia. So that's one example. And there are many more from the books, things like that, that give me, oh, so this is how things go. All right, I think that's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Donald. So we go to the Q&A session. Do any of you have something to ask about this book that presented?
Gusti, please.
I'm interested about opium wars. How opium first traded to the world, and is the opium was traded, what is it like, imported to another country as a way to conquer that country, to destroy the generation of the country? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Gusti. So the opium was imported into China by EIC. EIC is the British company, that the trading company of the British Empire, the competitor of VOC. VOC is the Dutch company that worked in Indonesia at that time, but the competitor is EIC. So EIC, there was a history why opium got its way. So first, VOC in the 16th century, VOC, they controlled the spice trade because they controlled the islands. Therefore, EIC had to find something else because they couldn't get spices. So they moved to tea from China, tea from China and cotton from India. So that is what AIC did. But then in the 19th century, there was a law passed in Britain that opened this to private traders. So EIC had to find something else because now cotton is actually forbidden because they want to protect the local weavers. So it is limited, and then tea they open it to private traders. So now EIC had to find something else, and they decided to send opium from India to China. So that is the beginning of the story in the 19th century. Simply because they need to find something else to replace cotton and tea. And the China Empire at the time, the emperor actually disliked opium not because the main reason was not because it destroyed the health or the mental health of the people, but the main reason is because it drained the empire's treasury because they had to pay with silver, and the emperor hated that. So the mental effect is actually secondary. So it's quite a long story. So after that, they sent commissioner to control the trading of opium. And yeah, long story short, there was war. It can be quite a long story, but there was a war, and I think the main lesson from opium war was that the empire at the time in China, they were very proud. So they thought of the British Empire as just a weak kingdom below their level. So they underestimate Britain at the time, and they lost the war.
I see. So the main reason is not what is it? Not related to the agenda to conquer the country, but just for economic reason.
Yes, just for economic reason they sent, and after being forbidden, they smuggled opium to China for profit.
Yeah, I once read about opium in some historical novel wrote by Indonesian writers. That's why I'm interested when I heard about opium, because it was, what is it? It described how it destroy our generation, something like that. Yeah.
What do you think about now, Donald?
Think about what?
Do you think somehow the opium war, quote unquote, still happening?
Today?
I mean, to the world, the trades, or, maybe sort of like, yes, it's a war among countries or between countries to destroy their people, other countries' people, something like that. Do you believe that?
No, actually the book stated that the reason of the opium being sent is not to destroy the people in China, but simply to get profit, because the EIC could no longer sell cotton and monopolize cotton and tea, so they had to find something else. So not in order to conquer China, it's just for profit.
And the current situation, I think opium is still out there. Yeah.
Now in America, there is a debate about banning TikTok or not, right?
Yes.
Congress, and a lot of the arguments talk about TikTok is the China's agenda to destroy America.
That's the opium, huh?
Yeah, the opium, the current opium, because they kind of distract teenagers from productive things and turn them into dancing machines.
Yeah.
So this is the real DDR here, dance revolution, brought by TikTok. So I think the opium here is in the form of that kind of
Mm.
technology.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, to me, the Opium War in 19th century was one of the most interesting things in the book because of how one-sided the war was. So when I read about the war, it's mind-boggling. So it's like, for example, in one battle, 1,000 casualties on the Empire side, and the British side only 5 casualties. So very one-sided, something like that. So yeah, it's very interesting because how one-sided it was.
Don't know, the opium war is still used for the propaganda by the Chinese government until now, right?
Exactly. So it started what they call as a century of humiliation.
Yeah, gender humiliation. So whenever they want to rally people, mobilize people to work hard against the Western domination, they always bring up the point about the decade or century of humiliation. One of them was the Opium War.
Yes, because the treaty after they lost the war, the treaty was very humiliating to the empire at that time, and until now they are still hurt because of it.
I have a question, Rona. The book is somehow has the same idea with historical materialism, like Karl Marx. Historical materialism, when a lot of important moments in history was actually motivated by money or materialistic. So don't you think it's somehow the same ideas that were presented with historical materialism now?
Well, the topic of the book itself is history of trading, so it focuses on that part of history. So I cannot compare it with other causes in history because the book itself is only about trading. So by definition, the book is about trading. So I cannot say whether the author agrees with it or not because yeah, the topic is narrow.
Did the book mention about Boston Tea Party for some reason?
Yes, just mention it in passing. So. But it is
Okay,
one of the reasons that caused the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. Because from the historical materialism perspective, is if Boston Tea Party did not happen, America would still be part of United Kingdom until now. So the reason why America wanted to be independent that time because of they felt unfairly treated in tea trade, right? So if only the Brits treated America fairly that time in terms of tea trade, then the American revolutionaries did not feel the urgency or the need to revolt because they were happy with the situation. So I think that's one of the examples that usually brought up by historical materialism.
Okay, but I think the tea trading is just one part of it. There are other parts, but the book itself doesn't focus on the American, but on the world. So it's just one part. Actually, about America, it talks more about the community, like sugar, especially. So how sugar impact the world at that time, and then the silver coins in Mexico. So more on that side of things.
You know what I
So,
found interesting the other day? Sorry, one more thing I wanted to share. I just found out that kiwi is actually from China.
Kiwi?
Kiwi, the fruit, was from China, but it was traded at one point in the century from China to New Zealand. But now New Zealand has become the origin of kiwi. It's no longer China. So I think that's interesting how the trade was in the past supposed to be from China to New Zealand, but now New Zealand is the one famous for it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there is also an interesting thing about orange fruit. Orange fruit is originally came from the southern China, the original species, but somehow it is already been found in the Western Europe. At the time before, there is a historical proof that there is a contact between European and Chinese. So there could be like a trade between Europe and China long before there is a historical evidence on it.
Interesting. Huh? History makes it more.
Or blown by the wind.
Yeah.
The seeds are blown by the wind with some super bee.
Yeah, there are so many interesting things. I think I'll just share two briefly before we move on to the next speaker. So one thing mentioned in the book, in 1830s, there was almost a civil war in America, but could be avoided by the president and the official. And it said that if it happened in 1830s instead of 1860s, most likely the South would win because the South was more economically advanced at that time. But fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on whose side you are, it happened 30 years later after the North became more advanced. So that's one thing. Another second thing is that Columbus was rejected in his own country, Portuguese, and he had to go to Spain for his expedition. And it was fortunate. Why? Because Spain is more sheltered, and therefore the climate, the wind is better, not as harsh as. So if he was accepted by the Portuguese crown and he left and went sail from Portuguese, most likely he would vanish because there was another expedition called by Vivaldi, I think, vanish because the wind is much harsher at that latitude. But fortunately, he went from Spain because he was rejected in this one.
Yeah, for some reason I have heard about that story. The one, yeah, it's really serendipity.
It's unfortunate for the Indians.
For the Native Americans,
Yeah.
Gusti, no longer Indians.
Oh, nggak boleh. We cannot say them.
No, Indian, they thought they were Indian from India, South
Ah.
Asia, but it was wrong. It was a wrong concept.
Oh, okay. New terms. Okay.
Okay, if there is nothing else, I think that's all from me. Thank you, Ibu.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dono.
That's an interesting discussion. So we go to the next person. Lucy, how about you? Would you present as the second person?
Me. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Time is yours.
Okay, so today I'm trying to present about this book, Rudy Habibie, Rudy Kisah Masa Muda Sang Visioner. This is the story of the struggling of Habibie when he was still young. And if you have watched the movies, maybe you're already familiar with the content of this book because this is the source for the movie. Though maybe in some parts the movie are a bit dramatized. And actually, this book is for my school project because my students, I asked them to read biography books and then write reviews about them. And then one of the groups chose this book, and then because they borrowed the book using my library account, so when I have to lengthen masa peminjaman, the borrowing time for this book, I brought this book to my home, and then I become curious, and then I read it, and then found that this book is really interesting. I want to start the review by reading a quote from Fyodor Dostoevsky. Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. The really great man must, I think, have great sadness on earth. So I think the quote is, suitable for B.J. Habibie, because before I read this book, I thought he was a privileged man with born in a rich family and then educated as well, and then have a opportunity to go abroad to Germany and then have a genius brain as well. But then after that, after reading this book, I know that actually he has so many bitterness in his life. Like when he was still in Parepare, in his hometown, his place of birth, Japanese bombed the city because it was one of the important city in Sulawesi for Netherlands, and then he have to go into a hole in the ground and then then bite like what is it, necklace with plastic, yeah, with some plastic, so his hearing would not be wounded by the loud voice of the bomb. And then after that, his brother fell when played with him when they were still a child, with still children. And then after that, his brother fell too sick, and then because the health facilities in Parepare was still below the standard, his brother cannot be saved. And then in the age of 14th, for 14th, his father died when he led a prayer for his family. So he was fatherless from the age of very young age, and then because of that, his family's economic decreasing, and then his mother have to work really hard to fulfill her vow that she will send all of her children to the highest education that she could afford. And then even for a genius, for a bright child like Habibi, he couldn't what is it, nggak bisa lolos, couldn't escape bullying. He was bullied by his peer because he was stuttered and then seldom to play with them because he only like to read a book. And then when he was a teenager, he was bullied. His friends called him Sisi because his lips and his cheeks are red like a girl. And then after that, he was sent to Java from Sulawesi alone. And then after that, when he was in college, he could get scholarship from government to go to German, but because he want to be in the same to the German in the same time with his best friend, he want to go by himself, not by scholarship. And then his mother have to really work hard, and then his family also sacrifice many things, like cannot go to the same high education as him because they have to allocate most of their money to financialize Habibi's education. And because he got no scholarship, his senior in German thought that he was a spoiled kid and not too bright. They didn't know that he was a genius, and then because of that, they treat him poorly. But then after that, they know that he was a special kid. He was a special kid. He then they could admit his strength, and then he tried. At that time, he has a vision. He want to what is it? Start aviation industry in Indonesia. So his mind is always like, I want to make a plan for Indonesia, just for Indonesia. And then it's really rare for like he has a privilege to like to think about himself with his brightness, with his privilege, but he still think about Indonesia. And then well, in his organization life as a student in Indonesia, in German, is also interesting because at that time he wants to make a seminar pembangunan, establishment seminar, so he could like make a blueprint for technology development in Indonesia. So like the alumni for the alumni of the education from German, like if after they go back, return to Indonesia, they will already have know what they should do to develop industry in Indonesia. But at that time, people from political background doesn't want the seminar pembangunan to to be placed, because they want to support Soekarno for Trikora operation, the freedom of Papua. And because of that, Habibie have to like look for money for membiayai, to pay for the seminar by himself until he was he was diagnosed with bone tuberculosis, and he was nearly died in German. But it was miracle that his life could be saved. And with those struggles, finally seminar pembangunan could be held, and then it can he can use it to organize his peers, so they could develop industry in Indonesia. What I like about this book is that this book is a light reading. Many funny things in this book, like when he was a child, he was curious with balloons because balloon can fly, and then he read that balloon can bring human to the sky, and his peers were also curious, and then they tried to find a balloon to make some experiment, but what they found was a condom. What they found was a condom, and this scene is also pictured in the movie. And then after that, those children blow the condom, and then then their parents know about it, they were so panic and so angry to Habibie and their peers. Also, there is also the story about his relationship with Ainun, his wife, the woman that will be his wife. Like when he was in German, his mother always talk about Ainun, and talk about Ainun over and over, and hoping that Habibie will be interested to the woman. But Habibie at that time didn't interested to Ainun, and then he said to his mother, if you keep talking about Ainun, then why don't you send her through a package to German, something like that. And then after that, his mother stopped talking about Ainun. Yeah. Well, and what I don't like about this book is actually not the fault of this book. The fault is mine, because I'm not too familiar with the history of Indonesia, especially the history of before we got independent, and then after the independent, when there were many like riots, like many rebellions, and the story of like Papua itself. So it's a bit hard for me to grab why those people want to menjegal. what is menjegal? Try to menjegal Habibie in doing the seminar pembangunan just to support Soekarno in Trikora operation. Yeah. And if I have to rate this book, I will give it 5 to 5 star, because this is really inspiring and entertaining as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gusti. So now it's time for the Q&A. So if you have something to ask about this,
I just want to
Until-
comment interesting stories. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't know behind the scene for people's success. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Until what point, Gusti? The book
Yeah, what?
was until what point? Until what age?
Until the story end, until he married Ainon and then brought his wife to Germany.
Okay. I'm always curious about how Habibie ended up the vice president of Suharto. I'm
Oh,
always curious, but I don't think anyone wrote about it because it's such a black mark for his history, I
yeah.
guess. Even in the movie, the biography of the movie from different era, they also avoided that subject.
Mm.
So Habibie is supposed to be, the pride of Indonesia, but remember when he delivered his pertanggungjawaban to the NPR in 1997 or 1998, yeah, that time, yeah. And then everyone said rejected, and then Allah Akbar, all of this. So it seems like it was such a dramatic and sad moment because Habibie is supposed to be a brilliant person and the pride of Indonesia, but that particular part is an embarrassment because he was associated with Suharto. So
Yeah.
that part, yeah.
Yeah. And this book doesn't doesn't mention the impact of the seminar pembangunan. I have to search from the internet like what is it for, and then I found that actually after the seminar pembangunan was held and then Habibie and his peers returned to Indonesia, they could they could start PT Dirgantara, PT PAL, and PT KAI from that seminar pembangunan, and that is not mentioned in this book. So actually the impact is that big. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question for Gusti. So from the story at the young age, he struggled a lot, right? A lot of challenges also from the family, from class schoolmates, and so on. So what is the turning point in his life? So from the challenges until he could realize his dreams, is there like a moment that is the turning point for him?
I think when he went to German, and then accompanied by his best friend Kenki, and then he learned how to be more social with other people, and then have organizational life as a student, not just educational. And then his social skill was developed at that time, and so he could deliver his vision towards his peer, even though he was underestimated by his peers at that time.
And and initially he went to Germany at his own expenses, right? And family,
Yes.
not scholarship, right?
Not scholarship. Although actually he could get it, but he didn't get it because he want to go earlier than the schedule.
Yeah, so I think there is sacrifice there from
Yeah.
family.
Big sacrifice, really big sacrifice. Oh, and even though and Habibie in German is not having rich life, yeah, he almost poor at that time, and even sometimes he cannot eat because his mother sent the money late, and he had no money, and then he couldn't eat, something like that. So he's not that privileged, like, yeah, not that smooth.
Yeah, and my second question is, you mentioned that his friends in Germany didn't realize that he was a bright person.
Yeah.
What was the moment that made them realize that he was a bright person?
After a test. So like there is a placement test that is only for senior students, if I'm not mistaken. I forget what the name of the test, but the test is really hard. And Habibie could pass it, and even like become the top students. At that time, he didn't know that he passed the test, because when he searched his name and in the lower parts of the announcement, he could not find his name. But then other German students help him to look for his name, because that student was taller than him, right? And then found that his name was in the top rank of the test. And then his senior thought that, oh, the test is so easy, because Habibie could what is it Habibie could pass it. But then when they try it by themselves, they could not pass. And that time they realized that Habibie was a genius.
I can probably bersaksi that Habibie was really short,
Yeah.
because I met his brother Fani Habibie when he was the ambassador of Indonesia for Netherlands. I was actually taller than him, so he
Oh.
was like, yeah, this side Fani Habibie. But then when I look at the photo, Fani Habibie and BJ Habibie, they're the same height. So possibly BJ Habibie was even my ear shot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Habibie here is famous due to his baby face. His face is cute, but he's actually really emotional. Like he liked to debate and would not stop until his opponent admit that they were wrong and lose to his argument.
Okay, thank you, Gusti.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Sri all. Now we can go to the next person. Then the group. Yes, how about Mbak Imo? You go next.
Sure, Edo.
Okay.
It's a different book. This is probably not too deep in a way, like it's not that kind of book that you would like, but I am sort of passionate about books about, or any references about breathing, since I had problems with my breathing due to my allergy. So whenever I get this allergy, I have this how to say this, like short breath. So I was in my quest to find how to have my breathing in full force. Well, I thought it was a full force. So I came up with this quote called, breathing is an underrated, luxurious activity for people like me. It is a luxurious thing. And then I found out that actually when you breathe, unlike what is believed by people, then you'll be fine. So this book, among many books that I collected about breathing, I think I like this most in a way. Can you see that? The book looks like a children book.
Cannot
Yeah.
see that, but I think Edo will share the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It calls Breathing Slower and Less, the Greatest Health Discovery Ever by Dr. Arthur Rakimov. And I'd like to start with an anecdote about my way of finding this breathing. When there was the swine flu, I was working for a company in Singapore, and it was hard to go in and out of the immigration, and also somewhere there, if you feel or if you look like you're sick just a little bit, and people will be suspicious of you, just like the COVID, right? This is before COVID. So I found out that breathing normally, or breathing in the right way, helped me to contain myself and to keep me healthy. So anyway, one of the story in the book says that in 1917 or 18s, even British Air Force personnel already used the like this one is breath holding test for pilots. So before pilots going, flying the plane, they will have this test of breath holding. And if their breath holding is less than 50 seconds, and they're not allowed to go fly the plane, because they think that, being responsible of the airplane with the breath holding of less than 50 seconds is dangerous to their own safety and safety of the others. So anyway, this book has like 7 chapters. The first chapter, interestingly, is about control pause. This is actually breath holding. Yeah. So the author explained a lot about how to do breath holding on a different situation. Just for us to understand that the best control pause or breath holding is when in such and such situation. Yeah. So and he called it this as an oxygenation index. I will let you know the numbers later on. The second chapter is about breathing and oxygenation, how actually oxygenation happened. The third one, explore about modern diseases and its relation with breathing. Now, chapter 4 is about the quality of life. And even though it sounds like, something that is making sense, but it's an eye-opener for me that a lot of quality of our lives depending on the way we breathe. So in number 5, explore on how and why we breathe too heavily today, like nowadays. And the 6th one is more on Buteyko studies and how to do breathing Buteyko style. And the 7 is questions and answer about Buteyko methods and breathing retraining. And there's some appendix and recommended reading as well. So the author, Dr. Arthur Rakimov, is a PhD in physics from Moscow University, but he's well known in North American, Canada, US, and aside from being a scientist, he's also a classical piano player. He coached world elite athletes from Russia and Finland or Finnish. And I think the most interesting thing from him, I found out that he has experience running, country skiing, and swimming with the total distance of 100,000 kilometers. He is he's proven his theory. Well, his theory is also coming from Buteyko, Professor Buteyko, that if you have a very good breathing, that you can do anything. So anyway, that's how the book is about. It's actually using the discipline of breathing Buteyko style. It was published the first time 2007, but always republished until 2014. That's the last one. I don't know now, but the principles and theory in this book actually being re-updated by many other scientists in this field in nowadays, and even journalists like James Nestor with the book called Breath. Yeah. This book is on ebook that I found. It's 145 pages, full of a lot of information. And what I like about this book is that it rich in content and it combined the how-to with scientific reasons and supporting evidence, a lot of references too, and it's relevant to my need. And what's in there is still contextual to what people find out today. It has some references on each chapter. So after each chapter, there is some references. The appendix also good to help for deeper understanding. Now, if you ask me what I don't like about this book, the only thing I don't like is the cover of the book, because the book looks like a children book in a way. Green color in the illustration looks like, underrated book. Like, what is that? It doesn't look like
And
a good
all
book.
men.
And all men, yes. But it is a good book for me. So some golden nuggets that I can take from the book, there are at least 3 things. The first one is always breathe through nasal, like nasal breathing. The second one is breath holding of a healthy person is actually between 40 to 60 CPs, and CPs is the what was that again? I forgot. Control pause. So like breath holding. Yeah. If you have this 60 seconds breath holding, then you are super healthy. Yeah. And that super healthy investment is good for high quality of life. Yeah. I will explain a little bit about each one of those, but there are three things: breathing through nasal, the breath holding of 40 to 60 contrapause or seconds, and to breathe slow and less. The first one, I found out that actually when you go through your nasal instead of like mouth, you see a lot of us when we need more oxygen, we open our mouth, right? And we just do, and that means we thought we're gonna get more oxygen, but in fact, it is less oxygen by 20%. And when you do the breathing through nasal, you actually, your body produce what is called as nitric oxide. Some scientists received Nobel Prize. I forgot the name, but they received Nobel Prize for finding that nitric oxide is actually very useful for our blood vessels, because it's like diluting the blood vessels, and it gives you, it's like a tranquilizer. So this is natural tranquilizer. And from that finding, there's also say that you don't need Viagra. Men, you don't need Viagra. Just produce this nitric oxide by always breathing through nasal. And if you breathe through the mouth, actually you get all this toxic without filter going through, some of your body organs, and that's dangerous if you do that all the time for years. Yeah. And by doing it through nasal, actually the carbon dioxide and oxygen working hand in hand together instead of just oxygens. A lot of people think that only oxygens is good for us, but actually the carbon dioxide is also good, and even as a more fundamental living matter than oxygen, according to this research. Yeah. So, and the breath holding is actually producing necessary carbon dioxide. So by like 40 to 60-second holding, it can produce enough, how to say this, enough portions of carbon dioxide. Yeah. It, so sorry, there's a phone call. Ray, can you please? Oops. One more. Yeah, sorry.
Hello.
And everything in our body is actually related or connected to our respiratory system, which is something everyone know. But what I can find out more is that, you know, actually by breath holding, you have this protein, fats, your carbohydrates, immune system, hormone regulation, blood sugar level. It's all connected directly to your breathing. We try to find any other things other than breath. For example, taking some medicine or a lifestyle practice, but we forget about breathing. Yeah. So on the breath, how you do that slow and less, actually the more you breathe, the less oxygen in your blood and tissues. This is probably some finding for me as well. I thought before, the more I take a breath, like deep breathing, is good for you because you get more oxygen. But actually, you don't need more oxygen. Breathe less is the key here. So if you can breathe for 1 minute with 1 liter, no, sorry, 1 liter, 6 liter of oxygen per minute is way better than more. This makes sense because if you get more oxygen, that means you get intoxicated, right? Okay, 2 more things, yeah. The over breathing is important. However, it can only be done once in a blue moon. For example, in a life-saving situation, like if you have the bleeding, then you need to hyperventilate. This one will help you freeze the blood. But if you take a slow, less, and calm breathing, the oxygen, not the oxygen, yeah, the oxygenation happen, and then the blood will run smoothly, lancar gitu ya. So my aim is now to have the 40 to 60 CPs and to breathe less and to breathe slow, because that's where I can get my quality of life. Back to you, Edo.
Thank you, Raymond. Now we come to our Q&A session. So anybody have a question?
There are any tips for people who have flu, who is unable to breathe from the nose, nasal? Because if it's related to your the book you talk about, maybe the reason people feel bad during flu is because they cannot breathe through the nose. So they cannot breathe from the mouth, right? So that kind of make the feeling even worse because of the theory you talk about, yeah? You're muted, Kak Imu.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it exactly what you say. If you think that you gonna get more oxygen by open your mouth, and because you plug here, then it's even gonna make it worse. So what you can do is try to make this open instead of opening your mouth.
Yeah, right now I cannot. I have pilek and then it's really hard to
Yeah.
breathe from the nose.
Yeah. Ada ininya Pak, let's say for example, this is what you can do, and you can take this, pull the ear and the plug, whatever it is plugged, you do this, ditarik ya, itu bisa membantu help you open this. So there are many other ways than just open the mouth, because that will make it worse. Just breathe like in snippet, just a little bit, open this and this, it'll help. Pelan-pelan gitu ya. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe
Ronald?
if there is
Yeah.
still time, I have a question. I am reading the table of contents. Chapter 3 is breathing and modern diseases. And it mentioned asthma, heart disease, cancer. So what is the relationship between breathing with these diseases? I would like to know. Thank you.
Like, for my understanding is that when you practice this breathing in and out in a deep way, like a deep and oxygen level is higher than the CO. When the CO is not like this, CO's function is to dilute the blood cells, right? And to how to say this, to transport this into the tissues, into the hearts. And if it's not there, then the transportation is like clogged, right? Stopped. When it stopped, once in a while, probably it's okay. Body will take it. But more and more, then you're gonna get this, like especially for the hearts, right? Heart is very important. Heart, liver, and so many other things like everywhere. So that's why I think, because blood is like everywhere. If it's not in the tissue, if it's not in some part of the body, then all these modern diseases will happen. And the most interesting thing I think for me is that when you get stressful, you get the tendency to hyperventilate. Hyperventilate by like short breath, short and frequent breath, and that only trigger the sympathetic response in your brain. When sympathetic response happen all the time, which means if you are a car, you do brake, you do apa namanya? Selain brake tuh gas brake gitu ya, all the time. And if you do that to your machine, your car, for example, it will be broken soon enough. The same thing with your body. If you're stressful unnecessarily because of the breathing, because this hyperventilation will send a message to your brain to say, hey, fight, flight, or freeze all the time. Berjaga-jaga all the time, and that's not good. While the slow, less breathing, sending signal that everything is okay, be peaceful, then everything else in our body will function as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Donald.
Thank you for your presentation also. And now we can continue to the next. Pipit will be next, and I will come last. Okay, Pipit, it's time for yours.
No, thank you. So the book I'm going to talk about is Poor Economics. Maybe Kak Emong already listened to my presentation when I was presenting this with Rolly, Bookaholics, a few months ago. But then I asked Donald, have I ever presented this book in
Not
the
yet.
Brewers?
Yeah.
And he said not yet. So I think this is a good opportunity. The reason why I read this book is because when I basically Matt Hudson recommended this book. That's the first time I heard about this book. And he recommended to me the book because I was really interested and was really impressed with the book. Wait. Am I lagging? Hello?
Enggak kok.
Oh, okay.
But now it's fine.
On the point, over.
Okay.
A
So,
bit lagging, yes, but still can hear you.
okay. So I like the book Why Nations Fail, right? So for some reason, okay. And then Matt said, if you like Why Nations Fail, you should read Poor Economics. So that's how I came across this book. And then I realized after reading the book, this book referenced Why Nations Fail as well. But in terms of they disagreed with Why Nations Fail. So for those who are not familiar with the book Why Nations Fail, bottom line is if you want to change a certain country to be to thrive, basically you need to change the system, basically, right? So even the political system as well, start from that. However, this book disagreed that we don't have to wait until the political system change. We can actually make the changes start from now, because it takes a long time to wait until the political situation change. So this book kind of encourages people to do it now. It says a radical rethinking of the way to fight global poverty. So that's the biggest stakeholder, or the biggest topic here is how to fight global poverty, basically. So this book is divided into two. The first one is just about the philosophy, mostly about the debate between we should give aid or not to poor countries. Because there are school of thought related to this. There are scholars who are against giving aid to poor countries. Yes, because it's kind of encouraged the corrupt government, basically. So whenever after a certain research, say 100% given to countries from poor, the government of poor countries, only 7% or less than percent actually reach the people that we want to help. Yeah, 90% goes to the officials' pockets, or the corrupt officials, things like that, so, or going to waste, basically. So and that makes them even richer and then even stronger to retain their power, basically. So that's also a strong argument. However, there's other school of thought, scholars who think that actually, even though we can help a little with this aid, it's still able to bring a big impact, basically. So don't despair, just keep giving this aid, something like that. So that's the first part of the book, talking about whether we should help the poor through aid or not. Another point was about how it will shape the mentality. So we have heard of this before, that if we give aid to the poor, there is human nature to somehow take it for granted. For example, the famous case in this book that I talk about is whether we should give bed nets for free against malaria or something, right? So there was an outbreak in Africa caused by mosquitoes. So the most efficient way that time, in this particular time, was giving bed nets. So when they sleep, they kind of, protect themselves from the mosquito bites, and then they can save a lot of lives. Not malaria, I guess, I forgot. It's been a while since I read this book. And then, but whether should we give them bed nets for free, or should we sell it to them? Make it available. That's how we help. Make it available and then let them purchase it themselves. Okay, so the way we help is by making it available. Because in so many cases, the bed nets are not even available, right? But there are two ways. If we give it for free, they will less likely to use it because they don't feel the sacrifice of paying money out of it. It was given for free, so they don't really feel the urgency to actually use it. Now, if you allow them to actually purchase it themselves, then they will most likely use it. So that's another thing. And also the book, it gave a really good perspective how it feels to be poor, especially to the Western people or people who live in the West. So sometimes it's hard to imagine how abject poverty looks like. So this book kind of gives perspective. Oh my God, my internet. Okay, next, for example, when there's a financial crisis, the poor do not even feel it because for them, every year is financial crisis, for example. So when there's an actual financial crisis, they don't even know there is a financial crisis. So that's the first one. Second, poor people are like the hedge fund. You know what hedge fund is? Like hedge fund manager. So people who, Gusti doesn't know what hedge fund manager. Gusti, you know the hedge fund manager is you, people give you money, invest money, and then you kind of try to invest this money sometimes in stock market, sometimes in derivatives, all of this financial instruments, right? To get more money, basically. But there's a huge risk. You can lose all the money even. So hedge fund managers are famous for being a risky job, but it pays a lot. Something like that, right? A lot of millionaires like Warren Buffett is also a hedge fund person, right? Now, poor people actually hedge fund managers also because their life is full of high risk. Yeah, their life is full of high risk, but they don't even get paid to manage those high risk. Yeah, so they're actually pretty incredible because knowing that they have to go through day in and day out with high risk, but at least for other people, when they manage to go through this high risk, they can get financial return. But poor people don't even get a financial return, even after overcoming high risk in their life. So that's one. And then another thing, oh yeah, they also talk about the corrupt situation in several countries. Fortunately, here they talk about 4 countries: Indonesia, Afghanistan, India, and Pakistan. Yeah, a lot of the examples here actually come from Indonesia. And there's one chapter talking about the police in Indonesia. So there was a lot of, for example, there's one incident when a family was ditipu 4 million rupiah. That time in 1990s, 4 million is a lot of money, was a lot of money, more than now, right? They had to pay the police 4.5 million to be able to get 4 million back. So it's like rugi, you know. That's why a lot of people chose not to go to the police and let go of the money that was cheated out of them. So that's talking about the corrupt situation, and then talk about how the poor people are capitalists without capital, basically. So many stories showing how poor people manage to survive with incredible ideas despite not having any money at all. So they come up with ways to survive, like finding opportunity, like jual pasir to clean dishes, for example. So it doesn't take any capital, right? So they just scrap pasir, dry sand from the tires of trucks. Jadi from bannya truk itu yang halus-halus plastiknya, they put them in plastic bags and then sell it to clean dishes for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what this the book said. Yeah, it happened in many parts of India when they do that. And the book also the second part is about institution, like how we can solve this problem. So the poster child of this book is Muhammad Yunus, is the Nobel Prize winner from Afghanistan. Yeah, so Nobel Prize winner Nobel Prize for Peace winner from Afghanistan, because he provided microfinance bank for the poor, basically. So the problem with the institution is no banks want to deal with the poor, because they thought like the poor, if you give them loan, there's 50-50 chance they cannot pay it back or they will run away, something like that. So no banks want to deal with the poor. And Muhammad Yunus think differently. Actually, if we can provide the banking service to the poor, then it can be a stepping stone for them to get better life. And Muhammad Yunus was credited for helping millions and millions of families in Afghanistan. Not Afghanistan. Bangladesh. Bangladesh, sorry. No, I don't know. I don't know why I get wrong. Muhammad Yunus. Yeah, Bangladesh. Sorry, guys. Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Indonesia. I don't know where I got the Afghanistan. Okay, so Bangladesh. So he was credited for helping millions of families out of poverty in Bangladesh. First, the poor people are afraid of admin fee, basically. So udah isinya sedikit gitu kan, potongan adminnya besar. So, basically, so if isi uang apa, the saving is only 10,000, the admin is 7,500. Jadi kan, what's the point of saving to the bank gitu kan? So he eliminated bank admin for the poor. So that's the first one. So remove the doubt from the poor to save their money. Satu. Terus yang kedua, he also created a system where these poor people can be encouraged to pay for their debt by doing group lending. So he took advantage of the close, tight-knit community in Bangladesh. So people in the developing country, they usually are close with their neighbors, right? They kind of, they're what is it called? Collective or community-oriented society. So when they lend money, it's 5 families lending it together. So they have to have 5 people from 5 families borrowing money from the bank, right? And then they will pay on the same date every month, but they are responsible to each other. That's why they use peer pressure to make them pay the cicilan on time and then exactly the same amount. Because if one person cannot pay this month, others have to make up for it. So they will, so it's a shared responsibility between these 5 families. Surprisingly, it actually works, because knowing that people will feel bad if they trouble their neighbors. Okay, if I don't pay it this month, I will trouble Gusti because she will have to pay for my share. They work really hard. So they actually decrease their tea consumption, their cigarette consumption, and other things that previously they did not even consider. So they realized tea spent a lot of time, a lot of money in Bangladesh, at least, right? But they were willing to cut down on it because I don't want to trouble Gusti this month. So peer lending was really important, and it is suggested to lift people out of poverty. Another idea is about how the government, if there is money limited or allocated for the poor, it should be allocated to remove the risk. So there are 2 things that has to be removed: is their healthcare must be guaranteed. The healthcare must be guaranteed. So a lot of people go bankrupt because of their suddenly family members of themselves catch a certain disease, right? So the government should give insurance to the poor people, basically. That's the first. Second one is insurance against disaster. Because in developing countries, farmers particularly are prone to disasters. They have wabah, what is it called? Hama, for example, they have flooding, So even a small irregularity that happened to them can totally flip their nasib. For example, there was one family that is okay, managed to get by, but because there was one flood coming, totally their situations become 180 degrees. So it just needs one irregularity to change people's fate, basically, for the poor people. So this is the government's responsibility to remove the risk from them. So allocate fund for these two things. So this is just the two examples of how the government and the people can help make the global poverty less worse, basically, or it's mitigated. So that is the main point from the book. What I don't like about the book is the first part is very technical. So the book is 275 pages. The good part is actually the second half. So I'm really afraid when people read the first half and then they felt like this is so boring, it's so technical, a lot of economic diagram or all of these things that was not interesting to me. I'm afraid if they did not soldier on to read the second part, it will be a waste of ideas, because the brilliant ideas actually come in the second part. So the first part is what I don't like. It's too technical, if you're not from the economic background, I think it would be very boring. I found it very boring. And also redundant, not necessary to be explained. And then how would I rate this book is 4 in the scale of 5. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pipit. Okay, I have one question regarding how the micro lending, there is a prejudice, right, among the general population that the poor people have a tendency to have consumptive loan instead of a productive loan. So if this kind of micro lending is successful, so will this prove that this prejudice is wrong, and how it is proved that way?
Thank you for the question, Edo. Actually, I forgot to mention about that. So there are 2 types of lending, right? For consumption and also for reproductive lending, right? So in this book, of course, they focus on the supporting poor family to start a business, actually, instead of for consumption. Yes, actually, that's a very important information that I left out. So they do not support consumptive debt, basically. They even provide people who will teach the family how to reduce their consumption, basically. So they, this poor family were introduced with budgeting for the first time in their life. And they realized, oh my God, I actually spent this much for cigarettes. I never even write it down or something like that, right? And then they came to a realization that they should not have done it. Oh yes, so it's true that the micro lending in this case, focusing more on starting a business, not for consumption. Yeah, and so unless the consumption here is for like education or for something which is consuming something, but for the productive purpose, then it is a yes. And the one related to that as well is oh yeah, the interest is also different. So it's different from what we know as apa sih kalau sekarang namanya itu online, what do you call that? Pinjol, yeah, it's very different from pinjol. So we know pinjol is loan sharking, basically, right? Know that. So this one is totally not loan sharking. So this is for people who really want to make a change, like Muhammad Yunus, and then you happen to have money, then please start this kind of microfinance. So the true purpose is actually helping people. And then in the process of helping people, you get the benefit, you get the profit. So it's not making profit number one, and then two, helping people. So it's helping people number one, and then making profit is number two. So that's another thing. That's why they even removed the administration fee, and then also the interest is very low. So yeah, that's too big.
Pipit, have you heard about CAFA? This is a program like that. CAFA? You heard that?
Yes, Kapa.
Yeah. No, CAFA. It's
CAFA.
called CAFA, K-A-V-A.
Mm.
I was a member of that program. This is a program where you put money. I put like $100 to help like microeconomy like that, and it's around the world. But they will, for example, they will propose their program, and we can choose which country, which area, and what kind of program. And then everyone, like, this is a sort of like crowdfunding but for lending, crowd lending, you may say, right? And then if you can choose to give like $20 and then another 20 to other programs, something like that. But the money will be there all the time, and will grow a little bit, but it will go also to that kind of program in the CAFA system. Now, is there anything like that mentioned in the book?
Actually not, because the book itself is pretty outdated. So it was
Okay.
during the start of the internet era, I would say. So I
see.
think if this book is somehow reprinted in the newer edition or something like that, I think they would have mentioned about it. And the thing about CAFA, the one Kak Imam said, it's probably, oh yeah, the book is from 2011. So, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, internet was already there, but not like this big. Right? So yeah, but Obama's mom talked about that. So I have a book written by Obama's mom, and then she talked about how people in the West could help people in rural areas in poor countries to start businesses. So she was given an award because of that. I think she helped business women from Yogyakarta, in small villages in Yogyakarta, and then she tried to get funding from people in America to help them, something like that. So I think the pre-internet era, that kind of program was already there. Yeah.
Pipit, can I ask you one question regarding this book?
Yes.
Yes. What is the difference between his theory and Muhammad Yunus' theory? Is this the same practice as what Muhammad Yunus has introduced and recommended, or is there any big difference? Thank you.
So, thank you. Muhammad Yunus is one of the solutions. Your Muhammad Yunus strategy was one of the solutions in this book. So other solutions would be, like the insurance for the poor in terms of health and against disaster, all of these things. So these are several solutions which I cannot say one by one because it's quite a lot actually. One of them that for me stood out was the microfinance, micro lending business started by Muhammad Yunus. Muhammad Yunus was just one of the strategies to fight global poverty.
Thank you. And I think in Indonesia we have a lot of we already have BPJS, right, for the health, and now we have KJP, but it's only for Jakarta. I don't know if Kartu Pintar is also available in other provinces. Now we have 38 provinces. Do people in small villages, they use Kartu Pintar for school?
I think school now, they are supposed to be for free because we have BOS, right? But if the people choose to go to sekolah favorit or something, BOS is not enough. They will still needed to pay. But I think if you go to sekolah yang biasa-biasa saja in the area, in the daerah, I think most of them for free kan already. Nah, about BPJS is very political, so I'm not gonna comment on that. The right way is supposed to be everyone is diwajibkan to be the member of BPJS, right? However, there's some political interest. Even the MUI rejected the idea of everyone should be the member of BPJS. Yeah, so it's very politically ridden. Yeah. However, the last one before, sorry, Edo, it's too long. So one thing I would like to share here is self-control is hard to buy. This is something that I found interesting what the book said. So people will do a great length to keep themselves from buying things they don't need, basically. So self-control is very hard to buy. That's why it kind of remind ourselves if we are tempted to buy something we don't need, and if you can self-control yourself, you get a great gain in the future, basically. So this is the reason why a lot of people in the rural area, they have half-done houses, right? Because that's how they save money. They save money brick by brick. Whenever they have a little bit money, they build one wall. Sometimes they build half of the roof. Because if they don't use the money for that right here, right now, the money will be gone somewhere else. So they will never wait until, okay, I will wait until terkumpul 50 million and then build my house. No, there's no way they can ngumpul in 50 million. That's why they will, whenever I have 5 million, I will build something. I will build my house brick by brick, because that's how they say. To prove that it's really hard to self-control ourselves. Okay, I think it's already 20 minutes, so I'll give it back to Edo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now it's come to the last presentation. So I'm about to read a book called A Fort of Nine Towers. The author is Kais Akbar Omar. So this book is a memoir by the author, where he told his stories as an adolescent going through the Afghanistan Civil War throughout since 1989 until 2002. So it started his life in about 9 years old. He lived in his grandparents' house compound residence, along with his extended family, his mother, father, and all his uncles and cousins. And his grandfather is quite a wealthy family there at the time. He's retired director of Central Bank of Afghanistan, and he's having a business in Persian carpet selling. At the time, the story starts when there is news about the Mujahideen faction from the rural Afghanistan reaching to Kabul to overthrow the government that at that time they consider as a puppet government from the Russia. After the Russian occupation of Afghanistan, they set up a government, and this Mujahideen that at the previous decade fighting the Russia in Afghanistan, so that this is a puppet government that they need to overthrow. At the time, all the Kabul residents support the Mujahideen to come to Kabul to overthrow this government. But then after this government is toppled, they start to experience continual conflict for more than a decade. There is starting to have a factional warfare between the faction of Afghanistan, because the Afghanistan itself is made from a wide different of ethnicity, and all of those ethnic have their own leadership and have their own community, so they fight each other, and they started to destroy the life of the Kabul population at the time. So when the war start and the grandfather's his grandfather's house start to be the front line of the welfare, they need to take a refuge. They go to one of their business college house in another part of Kabul, but there is no fighting there. And that house is a former fort that they call a fort of 9 towers. So they take refuge at that home. And while the fighting is continuing, they start to think about having to leave the Afghanistan, go somewhere to Russia or to Europe, and then they need to save for some money and find some people that can smuggle them outside. Then it starts their journey traveling throughout the Afghanistan. First, they go to the northern province by car, and how they met different people, and how it shows that how humanity could still strive even in the worst of time, where life is uncertain, but there is still a kind and beloved people that they can find in the road. They found a orchard owner that can they take them as a refugee, and wherever they go, they start to find kind people that would take them as part of the family. They even went through nomadic people of Kuchis, went with their caravan, living in the tent, in the white, and also working with their pasture uh, to pastoral their sheep and their camels, and then they take continue journey until they go back again to Afghanistan. They tried to go to Pakistan, but then they got kidnapped by some of the commander of operation commander that then then try to rob them and all. There is a life and death situation that they face throughout this time, and at the time this guy is only a teenager, so we can see as a first person how a teenager's life in that kind of worst situation at the time. And also after the factional warfare between the Mujahideen, there came also the Taliban at the 1996 that overthrown this Mujahideen faction. At the time, it is a peace. There is no longer fighting. There is no longer killing. There is no longer rocket flying in the air. No longer sniper. But these Taliban people, they impose their version of Sharia law that is really inhuman to the population. So like the woman can go to school and they cannot even go outside without their husband accompany them, and they must use their kind of dresses, the burqa, where everything is covered, including their eyes is covered with only a small like a small opening in the eyes in the form of like a jaring in the eyes. So how they discriminate the woman during that time. And the Kai's mother is actually a clerk in a bank. Since the fighting started, he can no longer go to the job. And during the peacetime also, the Taliban denied her access to the workplace at the time. And then the story concludes with the invasion of US to Afghanistan after the 9/11. At the time, Kais tried to find a job as a translator to the American Army at the time, and at the time the situation started to get better. And at the end, when Kais is early in his 20s, he can go to US and go to school there. And after that, he started to write this book. So there is some takeaway that I like in this book is how we talk about what human think when they are facing such a difficult situation, and how they can still manage to have their own humanity even when they also in the danger of having killed at any time. There is his father said to him that he quoted a phrase from a Persian poet that says, "To make one's heart happy is better than to make 1,000 sacred journeys." And this is what his grandfathers told to him, that even if his situation is worse, he needs to try to make other people surrounding him to be happy, to have a good heart to them. What I dislike about this book is to me there is not enough historical context. So when I read this book, I need to have accompanying reading, so to get more historical context about the place, the situation, and the timeline of the history there. I need to write research in internet alongside reading this book. But in the kind of writing, I really like how he write this book. It's really enjoyable to read. It's like reading some kind of a novel or something where it is easier to read, where it invokes your emotion reading this. And I would, besides of the historical context, I would read this book for art.
Question, Edo.
Yes.
So how did the book view the intervention of Russia and the intervention of US? Are they in favorable or against both, or what?
Okay, so in this story, the father Kais told about the view of his father. So his father said, throughout the millennium, there is always many different people that try to conquer Afghanistan, and Afghanistan only there is only two things that unite Afghanistan. First is the religions of Allah, and second is how they handle invasion of the foreign force. So when there is new people that coming to the neighborhood, they always try to be like they always ask themselves what is what 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 is the force behind these people, what they want coming to Afghanistan, if they really want peace or if really just another conqueror like the past. And that is also what they feel with the US force intervening in Afghanistan. They not accept it directly, but it's like more of a like it's like full of uh, confucius thing to them. So they do not take this intervention lightly, but only later when they found that this US is harsh to a certain element, and then try to get the heart of the other people, that the people of Afghanistan split, some supporting US, some against US.
Edo, yeah,
Yes.
I haven't read the book, and my internet connection is not clear. And I just read some of the Wikipedia review, also the review from other people. This book was published in New York, and actually based on like the same as Pipit question, this author is talking about the Soviet invasion to Afghanistan rather than US invasion, right?
Uh, this book is the start of the timeline of the book is later than the Soviet invasion, and the last of the book is part of the US invasion. So the timeline is between 1989 until 2002.
Okay, so this author is talking about both invasions. And I'm not clear about this Mujahideen, the Taliban. This Taliban Mujahideen, I just read like few lines. They said that, he says that they are criminals, actually not warriors. Is that correct?
Yes, that they are actually what the author view of them is, they are actually criminal, but uh, thinking that they are a holy warrior, because uh, their leaders make use the words of God and then try to manipulate it to his own benefit, and to make all these people think they are a holy warrior, while actually they are only raping, robbing, and destroying the country.
Well, Edo, from the international relations book, the international globalization book, Mujahideen was actually supported by the US as their extension to fight against Russian invasion of Afghanistan. So Mujahideen was in the 80s was supported by the US. They were trained and supplied with arms by the US. But then the US did not realize or probably did not think that they will, after Russia left, Mujahideen will turn against US. So I guess that was the one version of it.
Actually, not the Mujahideen that is against US. So there is first Soviet invasion during the 70s, then Soviet occupation. After the Soviet occupation, the Mujahideen fighting the Soviet during the invasion and occupation with US support. Then there is a civil war. There is a civil war in the 90s, start from the 89 until 96. There is a civil war between the faction of Mujahideen, because the Mujahideen they're actually a rural community. So in Afghanistan itself, the community is organized. Like there is a certain area, there is the communities, and this community have a leader, and whatever this leader says, all those community will follow, and then they become the Mujahideen faction with many different leaders. They fight each other during the 90s, and then they come the rise of the Taliban. The Taliban fighting this Mujahideen, and the Mujahideen left in the 1996. Then the Taliban took charge of the Afghanistan until the invasion of the US. When the invasion of the US, also the Mujahideen, there is two sides. There are Mujahideen faction that is supporting the US against Taliban, and also there is a Mujahideen that is turns back against US.
I have a question, Edo. Is it okay? Still okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I have been wondering about this. A lot of women from like Western countries, even from Indonesia, who went there and joined the movement, the Taliban movement.
Yes.
And you know, I just don't get it, how they can be convinced, you know. Was it even discussed in the book, something like that?
Yes. There is the point how this can happen is because they use the words of God to their own benefit. So because in Afghanistan, all that the elders said, all that faction leader said is correct, because they taught as the people that knows most about the words of God, about the Quran, about their religion. So they manipulate these words of God to make it very confusing to others. And for those that think that if they do not follow this what their leaders say, then they are against the God, and they're afraid of being punished by hell kind of thing. So this is the situation. Even that the religion is the purpose of religion is always to be a good thing, but there is some people that try to manipulate this word of God and then turns it the other way.
Yeah, but that's the dogma of like Islam religion or whatever they call it there. However, these people who are being recruited, they're not necessarily Muslim, like women, to get married to like Taliban people there and live. The life is so different than their life in like Western countries, in Australia, in Europe or America. How did it happen? Like what kind of communications that they did to convince them? That I don't know, but is it like being discussed in the book or no?
Well, that thing actually not discussed in detail. They just have an opinion about this dogmatic view, how it can turn people to be a supportive to whatever this leader said. So actually, we can see also what happened in the foreign country, how they recruit these sympathizers could be the same way. They use the word of God. They convince them that they will have long-lasting afterlife happiness kind of that thing, and that really can reach the deepest heart of some of the people, especially some of the people that experiencing some hard in their life. It could be a really good things to convince them.
Powerful brainwashing, yeah.
Yes.
Imong, yeah, I think after experiencing pandemic, war, and also listening to the stories, we can see that the countries that are actually in chaos, yeah, they're not peaceful. The women are not treated properly. So I think if you want your countries to be peaceful, to grow, develop, I mean, the most fundamental requirement that these countries need to pay attention to is women and then children. Yeah, because all these countries that I see that are falling apart, like especially Afghanistan, I mean, you can see how the women are treated there, like the pedophilia, like the children in the age when they just got puberty, they're married to a man that is like 70 years old and things like that. And we have heard about what's the name of this girl that was shot by Taliban? Yeah, because she wants to study the education, which is the fundamental needs for people in the country to live a good life is education and healthcare. But they don't deserve education by the Taliban. So I think we know that when we go to a country, a certain place, that a village, when we know the women are not highly educated, when their healthcare is not paid attention, that's the place that is going to be chaotic and causing a lot of problems and troubles for the rest of the country or for the rest of the world. I think that's just my opinion. I don't know if you agree or not.
Yeah, actually, women welfare is quite a good indicator of how good a country it is in terms of discrimination. So yeah, we never have a country that is so good but also discriminate through one gender.
I think it's byproduct, right, Edo? Like, I mean, those things are byproduct of what happened there. Still don't know the root cause though. Like, it's like a vicious cycle. In the family, men are being raised not in a good way. So when they become a family and they don't respect the woman, and then the cycle continues like that, right?
Yes, there is a vicious cycle. Okay, guys, I think we already reached our end in today's meeting. Thank you all for you that is attending this meeting. We can take a photo first before we end this meeting. Okay, can you take it?
Oh, I don't have my book.
Okay. Kak Mita, do you want to turn on cam?
Who will take the photo?
I can
Itu
take.
dulu.
I can take. Kak Mita, 5 ya.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Oh, can't see.
4, 5.
It's hard to
Cek.
Mm-mm.
Oh, Gusti, you will be the next moderator ya, Gusti. Gusti. Ya. Okay. Right, Kak Vita, since you have joined us twice, we will invite you to. Oh, she left. Okay, I will talk to her later.
Masuk lagi.
Yeah. Kak Vita, since you have visited us twice, we will invite you to our group, okay? Okay. Please turn off the recording.
What date is the next meeting? Yeah, don't know.